Suprabhat, Namaste from the e-platform of Faculty of Law, GLS University. It is a beautiful Sunday spring morning for this auspicious program of today, that is Judicial Colloquium on the theme Exposed Yet Unrevealed, Reflections on Gender Equality. As a part of tradition, we start everything at GLS with the prayer. And for this particular program, we will start with e prayer by keeping the hopes upward and our heads downward in the prayer. We'll begin with e prayer herewith.
शुभं कुरु त्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शुभं कुरु त्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शत्रुबुद्धिविनाशाय दीपज्योतिर्नमोऽस्तु ते दीपज्योतिर्नमोऽस्तु ते शुभं कुरु त्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः.
Once again, greetings of this beautiful morning. I would like to invite the a brilliant academician and driving force and a powerhouse at GLS Law, Dr. Mayuri Pandya, for her welcome address. Over to you, ma'am, for welcome address of this auspicious occasion. Over to you.
You will have to unmute yourself.
Ma'am, you are mute.
या देवी सर्वभूतेषु शक्तिरूपेण संस्थिता नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः. I bow down to Vidya Shakti, present in one and all who have joined today, and especially the guest, the chief guest and the guest of honors who are with us today on this judicial colloquium on exposed yet unrevealed reflections on gender equality. Today we have with us the legal luminaries who have played an extraordinary role in the nation building. Hon'ble Ms Justice Banerjee, the chief guest of the colloquium, Judge, Supreme Court of India, and the 8th women judge who was appointed at the Supreme Court. সুপ্রভাত, আপনাকে আন্তরিক শুভেচ্ছা ও স্বাগত জানাই. My hearty wishes and welcome to Honorable Ms Justice Banerjee at this e-platform of GLS University. We have the guest of honors for the session 1, Honorable Ms Justice B.V.Nagarathna. Honorable Ms Justice Nagarathna Rige, Tumbu Hridayada Swagataganam. I heartily welcome you on this e-platform of GLS University Faculty of Law. Honorable Ms Justice Trivedi, Judge, Supreme Court of India. આપની માતૃભાષામાં હૃદયપૂર્વક આપનું ગુજરાતમાં ગુજરાત લો સોસાયટી ફેકલ્ટી ઓફ લોમાં હું આપનું સ્વાગત કરું છું. It is indeed my pride and privilege, and I feel blessed and for an academician and I'm thankful to Sudhir sir for this, the only person, for giving me an opportunity to share the dais with the sitting judges of the Supreme Court of India. And for the second session, we have the honorable judges, the sitting judges of the High Court, and I'm proud to say that all the 6 judges, the full quorum of the women judges of the High Court of Gujarat, Honorable Ms Justice Sonia Mogani, Honorable Ms Justice Sangeeta Vishay, Honorable Ms Justice Geeta Gopi, Honorable Ms Justice Vaibhavi Nanavati, Honorable Ms Justice Mona Bhatt, and Honorable Ms Justice Nisha Thakur. All the chief guest of the event and all the guests of honors, I welcome all of you on this e-platform. Today we have with us our President, Honorable Shri Sudhir sir, the President of the GLS University, the moving force of GLS, and the practicing advocate, the senior advocate at the High Court of Gujarat. We also have with us Honorable, our Executive Director of the GLS University, Dr. Chandni Kapadia. We also have the Honorable Registrar of the GLS University, Dharmesh Bhai, Provost, Dr. Joshi. I welcome each and everyone, all the office bearers of the GLS University, and everyone who have joined today with us. My special welcome to the primary judiciary members. I would like to appraise especially all the ladyships who are on the screen right now. I would like to appraise that the Gujarat Law Society was established in the year 1927, and this is the centennial decade of Gujarat Law Society. We started with a one law college, and the motto of the law college was the righteousness. Righteous Satyan Nasto Parodharma. Righteousness is the supreme law. And from that, our journey which started in 1927, today now we have become the private university from 2015, and our motto is Udyamam Tamasaha Pari. Hard work is the highest virtue. And that all these years from the peon to the president, the righteousness in the heart, righteousness has been translated as the supreme law. And the result is today that our standing in the field of education is this. We completed 95 years, and soon within 5 years we will complete 100 years. Enormous contribution in the field of education, one of the most oldest education trust, and the most important aspect for it is that it was established by the Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, who himself was a barrister, a lawyer. It is developed, established in 97, but then it was developed with the visionary, the able advocate, late Sri Nanavati sir. And today also it is that name and the fame. We are working very hard under the able leadership of an advocate, the senior advocate, the president of the university, Sudhir sir. Gujarat Law Society is its a basic fabric is law. Gujarat Law Society is run by the visionaries who belong to the law field and is under the able leadership of the law. So the basic genesis, the basic fabric, the past, the present, the future of the Gujarat Law Society, the recognition of the Gujarat Law Society is law. No doubt we impart in the various disciplines, other disciplines as well, from till the PhD. But law has its own beauty, and it's the base of the Gujarat Law Society. I wish to file a caveat that when we decided to have this is on this very special day of celebrating the Women's Day 2022, that how to celebrate it, and the theme we thought of that exposed yet unrevealed, reflections on gender equality. I find a caveat that here at GLS, we don't believe we are not here to criticize any patriarchy. We are here to celebrate. We are here to celebrate the sheroes, the heroes that have contributed a lot for the gender equality. We are not here to criticize. We are not here to talk for the glass ceiling and the number of the judges. We are not here to criticize the number of 3,117 judges across the country, the women total judges, and the 490 judges, the women judges. We are not here to criticize that, but we are here to celebrate that there are 490 women judges. We are not here to criticize any family values. We are not here to criticize. This is not, when we see the gender equality world, we are not here to men versus women. We are here to celebrate. We are here to only make our remarks only against the patriarch mentality. The patriarch mentality may be in a woman, maybe in a man. It depends. This is merely the gender, merely we believe strongly that gender is merely a biological difference. And that difference, that's by birth. But we want to celebrate that difference. We want to celebrate that difference with the highest dignitaries, the courageous women who have contributed a lot for the nation building and who are with us today and who are in true sense the protector of the supreme law of this country. These all the women judges are the protector of the Constitution of India, and they are abide by their function, and so we want to celebrate that. We are happy that there are today, we don't see, and we always believe to see that its glass is not full. We see half glass is full. We are very, very optimistic. We are very positive, and we want to celebrate that positivity together. We are not here to criticize female ferticide, but we are here to celebrate that the number of women has increased. And as I said, that at GLS, when we talk for the, I being an academician and being one of the employee of Gujarat Law Society, I put on record in presence of all the three ladyships that in 95 years of our existence, there is not a single case where I can say that the dignity of a woman is at stake. It is 95 years of the fame, and the environment, the conducive environment that is that, and the as I belong to the faculty of law, I would like to give the evidence, and the evidence is your ladyships. Yesterday was our convocation, our 5th convocation of the GLS University. And the Honorable Chief Justice of High Court of Gujarat was the chief guest of the event. And this is my observation as a one simple employee, as an academician, and I salute to the management of the Gujarat Law Society. The president of the GLS University and the chief guest of the university, they were having the scarf which was pink. We don't believe in gender stereotypes. We don't believe in gender. We don't believe that the pink belong to the women and the blue belong to the male. We don't consider any difference in that. And that's the highest evidence that I can put forward for the environment where I belong to. The maximum number of women in our university, total in Gujarat Law Society and GLS University. With that, I heartily welcome all the judges, all the justices today who are with us. This is truly the celebration, and a proud moment for everybody in Gujarat Law Society and GLS University. And this is the history so far as our society is concerned. This is the history where the 9 sitting women judges who are with us for this program. So once again, I welcome each and everyone. I would also like to bring to the notice of the honorable judges that the members from the primary judiciary, they have also registered, and across India, they are viewing right now. Everybody is celebrating. And I feel fortunate that Gujarat Law Society and GLS is an instrument for the celebration of this Women's Day. We are highly honored, overwhelmed with the presence of all the sitting judges of the Supreme Court of India and the High Court. Once again, I welcome each one of you who have joined today more than 2,500 registered participants, more than it is live on Facebook and YouTube. Thousands of women and people are watching this, and many judges, the primary judiciary, and my budding lawyers. How can I forget them? Ma'am, this is the only program where the every student of my institute has registered. We always ask them to voluntarily register, but full quorum of GLS law. I'm very happy, privileged to welcome all of you. Once again, I welcome each one of you to this e-platform.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your warm welcome. Now, this is the time to move ahead the program. After the warm welcome, we are going ahead. The head of GLS family, that is Dr. Sudhir Nanavati, president of GLS University, who is an eminent senior advocate, head of GLS family, who is a great philanthropist, a visionary academician, senior advocate, and ultimately who is a multitasker and who manages each of his roles with balance and with 100% dedication. It is the time to hear from him. Sir, may I please request you to offer your inaugural address for today? Over to you, Dr. Sudhir Nanavati.
Thank you, Payal. A very good morning to all of you who have joined this virtual colloquium today. GLS Education Trust, established in 1927, has always stayed committed to provide an ideal and creative learning environment to continue its tradition of excellence in education. Today, moving towards the fulfillment of the same objective, Faculty of Law, GLS University, is celebrating Women's Day by organizing this Judicial Colloquium. On behalf of GLS University and I myself, I take this privilege to welcome the chief guest of the event, Honorable Ms Justice Indira Banerjee, Judge Supreme Court of India, and the guest of honor, Honorable Justice B.V.Nagarathna and Honorable Justice Bela Trivedi, Judges Supreme Court of India. I extend my warmest welcome to all the esteemed speakers and guests of honor for the day who will be joining in the second session, and they are Honorable Ms. Justice Sonia Gokani, Honorable Ms. Justice Sangeeta Vishen, Honorable Ms. Justice Geeta Gopi, Honorable Ms. Justice Vaibhavi Nanavati, Honorable Ms. Justice Mona Bhatt, and Honorable Ms. Justice Nisha Thakur. GLS University is blessed to have your presence and to listen to all the goddesses of justice of the Honorable Supreme Court of India and the Honorable Gujarat High Court on this platform today. Currently, we are all aware that there are numerous women-related laws, and we have already entered the era of spreading sensitivity towards it, but there are yet some issues which remain untouched. This event is an attempt to reveal the other side of gender equality, which remains hidden or hardly get discussed. Jimmy Carter said, and I quote, "It is time that men and boys recognize the part they must play in gender equality and join with the voices and actions of the women and girls who are trying to reshape society in the interest of us all." And truly, so gender equality is not only a fundamental right for women, but a necessary foundation for a peaceful, prosperous, and sustainable world. When we talk about gender sensitization world, there are many untold stories which act like a clarion call to millions of women across the globe. It is interesting to note that astronauts Jessica Meir and Christina Cook took part in the first all-women spacewalk in October 2019, organized by NASA. When they ventured out of the International Space Station to replace a power controller, they realized that NASA didn't have two appropriately sized spacesuits for women, indicative of the legacy of gender bias that women in STEM fields face, due to which NASA had to postpone the planned all women spacewalk in March. This reflects that even an acclaimed organization like NASA has not pondered upon this. Today, as I stand in front of you all, I feel immensely proud of my daughter-in-law, Vaibhavi Nanavati, who has joined us at this colloquium. I am indeed a proud father and still recall the day when Vaibhavi came to me to seek my blessings and guidance when she was elevated as a judge last year. My happiness knew no bounds and was utterly delighted on the news of her appointment as a judge. Because when I was young, I was offered to serve in judiciary, but it could not work out due to some unavoidable circumstances. So it was like a dream come true when my daughter-in-law, Vaibhavi Nanavati, was offered the opportunity. Today, as we are celebrating the Women's Day with this colloquium, I thank Vaibhavi for realizing my dream of somebody from the family being able to serve the judiciary, and who better than a woman, my daughter, being able to do so. Because after all, as G.D. Anderson said, feminism isn't about making women stronger. Women are already stronger. It's about changing the way the world perceives that strength. I'm sure you are all eager to listen to our guests. So, not taking much of your time on the occasion of International Women's Day 2022, I would now like to open the floor to successful women in the true sense of deliberate on the pertinent issue of the time. Thank you and have a great day.
Thank you so much, sir, for such inspiring words. And by just quoting your personal experience and your personal feelings about your daughter. Now, going ahead with the flow, as it is truly said, that there are only two ways to shed light to the world, either be the candle or be the mirror who reflects the light of that candles. Today we are so lucky, we are so fortunate, we are having both the kinds of people with us on this e-platform. One is those who are candles themselves, who have burnt, and second, who have truly hold the reflection of that light. Now, I would like to request Dr. Mayuri Pandya, Director, to further take the discussion of the session that would be on the theme. Mayuri ma'am, over to you for the session one. Does gender matter?
Thank you, Balban. Without wasting time, uh, I take it's my privilege to introduce the chief guest of the colloquium, Honorable Ms Justice Indira Banerjee, Judge Supreme Court of India, and the chief guest of the event. Her leadership is a beacon of hope and inspiration for the women in India. An illustrious legal career, she is the eighth woman appointed as a judge to the Supreme Court of India. She was elevated as a judge of the Kolkata High Court in the year 2002. She is graduated from the Presidency College and received her LLB from the College of Law, Kolkata University. Before she was elevated as the judge of the Supreme Court of India in August 2018. Before that, she was transferred to Delhi High Court in 2016 before appointed as the Chief Justice of the Madras High Court in April 2017. She has passed several landmark and notable judgments in Supreme Court of India. including the judgments on the legislative competence of the state legislature, Rajendra Diwan versus Pradip Kumar Raniwala case, entitlement of acquittal in regards to NDPS Act, Mukesh versus State Narcotic Branch of Delhi case, being the few of them. Having the illustrious legal career and the 8th Supreme Court women judge of the Supreme Court of India, I request Hon'ble Ms Justice Banerjee for her keynote address.
Sister Justice Nagarathna, my sister Justice Bela Trivedi, my sisters of the Gujarat High Court who have tuned in, Dr. Sudhir Nanavati, Dr. Mayuri Pandya, Dr. Kapadia, Dr. Payal Mehta, and every one of you. I take this opportunity to wish all the wonderful women and all the men supportive of the cause of women's empowerment a very happy Women's Day in advance. I thank the Gujarat Law Society for inviting me to this colloquium and giving me the opportunity to share my thoughts with you. I think there has been a change in the topic. I was told that the topic would be exposed yet unrevealed reflections on gender equality. Anyway, does gender matter? It's really the same. Women constitute almost 50% of the world's population. They are the loving mothers, darling daughters, dear wives, doting grandmothers, affectionate sisters, indulgent aunts, so on and so forth. Some of them work for a living, others do not. Yet, the question is, are women really equal? The answer lies in the fact that we should be celebrating, observing Women's Day, and discussing gender equality, exposed yet unrevealed reflections on gender equality. With the advance of civilization, with industrialization, with development of trade, commerce, transport, communication, women are more exposed to the outside world. Traditionally, the role which was attributed to women was of being good wives, having children, bringing up children, looking after the home, and being homemakers. But there has been a change in this role over the years. More and more women come out of the four walls of the house. Many of them work for a living. The, with the formation of the United Nations, universal awareness of the equality of women was ushered in. On 10th December 1948, the United Nations adopted the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And Article 1 of the Universal Declaration states, all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. They are endorsed with reason and conscience and should act towards one another in a spirit of brotherhood. As per the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, the CEDAW, often referred to as the Bill of Rights of Women, for the purpose of the convention, the term shall mean any distinction, exclusion, or restriction made on the basis of sex, which has the effect or purpose of impairing or nullifying the recognition, enjoyment, or exercise by women, irrespective of their marital status, on the basis of equality of men and women, of human rights and fundamental freedoms in the political, economic, social, cultural, civil, or any other field. The Vienna Conference on Human Rights in 1993 evinces major concern for the human rights of women at the international level. Article 18 of the Vienna Declaration states, the human rights of women and of the girl child are inalienable, integral, and indivisible part of universal human rights. The full and equal participation of women in political, civil, economic, social, and cultural life at the national, regional, and international levels, and the eradication of all forms of discrimination on the grounds of sex is high priority of the international community. I won't quote any further from international declarations because of the constraints of time. Our own constitution is a gender friendly constitution. The preamble to our constitution very succinctly summarizes the aims and objects of the Constitution of India. The Constitution of India promises to secure to all citizens of India, irrespective of gender, justice, social, economic, and political. And social justice means justice irrespective of gender. Liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith, and worship. Equality of status and of opportunity, and to promote amongst all fraternity. In India, the right to equality before the law and equal protection of the laws is a fundamental right under Article 14 of the Constitution of India. Article 15 of the Constitution expressly prohibits discrimination on the ground of gender. Article 15, Subarticle 3 empowers the state to make special provisions for women and children, which would include the girl child. Article 16 provides for equality of opportunity for all citizens in matters relating to appointment to any office under the state. Subarticle 2 prohibits discrimination on the ground only of sex in respect of any employment or office under the state. Then we have Article 19 which gives all citizens the freedom of speech and expression, freedom to form associations, freedom to move freely throughout the territory of India, freedom to practice any profession, carry on any occupation, trade, or business, subject, of course, to the limitations in sub-articles 2 to 16. Article 21, a very important article today, in view of the liberal interpretation given by the Supreme Court to Article 21. Article 21 says no person shall be deprived of his life except according to procedure established by law. This article has been interpreted by the Supreme Court to include the right to live with human dignity and not mere animal existence. Modern constitutions incorporate gender equality provisions. After India ratified the CEDAW, a multi-pronged strategy has been evolved for the empowerment of women, their economic advancement, including employment, access to healthcare and family planning, education, so on and so forth. Yet the ground reality is that equality of status is more in the books than in actual fact. To quote Lord Denning from the Due Process of Law, a woman feels as keenly, thinks as clearly as a man. She in her sphere does work as useful as a man does in his. She has as much right to her freedom to develop her personality to the full as a man. When she marries, she does not become the husband's servant, but his equal partner. If his work is more important in the life of the community, hers is more important in the life of the family. Neither can do without the other. Neither is above the other or under the other. They are equal. To quote Swami Vivekananda, just as a bird cannot fly with one wing, the nation cannot march forward if women are left behind. Yet, the ground reality is different. We started today with worship of Shakti. We worship Goddess Saraswati as the goddess of learning. Yet, there is discrimination against women. There are crimes against women. Women are even subjected to domestic violence. Justice Leela Seth, the first woman to be appointed Chief Justice of a High Court, once lamented, women are half the world and hold half the sky. But where are they when it comes to equality? Systematic gender based discrimination is not unique to any particular country or region, but it is universal. Almost all over the world, women face inequality and discrimination, which is palpably poignant in case of the destitute, disadvantaged women belonging to the lower economic strata, differently abled women, psychosocially challenged women, women belonging to backward communities, low castes, so on and so forth. The right to education is a fundamental right today in our country. Yet, even in India and also in many other parts of the world, girls are underrepresented at the school level. The gender gap widens the higher one advances in the educational system. The main obstacles are economic constraints, preference of the boy child, the distance of the school, early marriage of girls, so on. Even though more and more women are coming out to work, working for a living, how many of them are really able to reach positions? Is their capability, their competence recognized, perceived? Why is it that the majority of the working women, the few who reach the top aside, why is it that most of them are daily wage earners? How many of them are appointed to managerial positions? How many of them are involved in the decision making process? In spite of the constitution, in spite of all the laws, all the discussions, the role of women is perceived as that of a good homemaker. That is considered to be the primary role, whereas the role of the man is that of the breadwinner of the family. If we have to achieve real equality, there has to be a change of mindset from the very beginning. A caveat: I do not say that one should not be a good homemaker. I do not say that women should neglect their children. If you have children, you certainly have your duty towards children. If you have a family, you have a duty towards your family. But the differentiation between the the man and the woman, that is the stumbling block in the road to real equality between men and women. So even though the Constitution of India came into force 72 years ago, there are only four women in the Supreme Court today. There are many judges in the Gujarat, many women who have been appointed judges in the Gujarat High Court who are also here today. But what is the percentage? Now, the question is, why this imbalance? And how can we set right this imbalance? So many lawyers are practicing. How many of them are really able to make a mark. What has to change is the mindset about the traditional roles of men and women. Men and women equally have a responsibility towards children. Men and women equally have a responsibility at home to improve the lot of women at the workplace. Women themselves have to make the effort and they have to change their mindset. Unfortunately, because of the social tuning from the very beginning, from the childhood, the nursery rhymes where women the nursery rhymes around the girl child is that you at least Bengali nursery rhyme, খুকু যাবে শ্বশুর বাড়ি সঙ্গে যাবে কে? That means the little child will go to her, get married and go to her in-laws place. Who will go with her? The girl child will be given the toy. The boy child will be given the car, will be given the gun. From the beginning, children should be taught, girls and boys alike, that they are to be respected. Every person, whether a girl or a boy, is born of a mother. My mother may have been a homemaker, but she was a very dynamic lady. And I certainly owe what I am today to her. My grandmother, my mother's mother, she did not have much formal education. But my mother used to preserve her letters. What wonderful language! Given the opportunity, she would have been a literature. And she was very enlightened. She sent two of her daughters abroad for their education at a time when I was not even born, when there was a lot of discrimination. Given the opportunity, women excel in every field. I feel proud that in another few years, we will have a woman who will be the Chief Justice of this country. And thankfully, she is present with us today. It took many years, but at least it is happening. We have very competent ladies in the benches of different high courts. We have very competent ladies who are practicing as lawyers. Given the opportunity, women have excelled in every field. So, if the topic is, does gender matter? My answer is, gender does not matter. The only difference, as has been pointed out a little earlier, is the physical difference. But what is required is a mindset, change in the mindset. From the childhood, the brother should be taught that his sister is equal, that his mother has brought him into the world. Respect the mother. There may be many mothers who have sacrificed their career, sacrificed their education, I would say, to bring up children to become good homemakers. Acknowledge their role. acknowledge their role in bringing you up. This is what everyone should be taught. Everyone has a role as a breadwinner. It is not the man who has to be the breadwinner, the woman who has to be the homemaker. Jointly, men and women have to be breadwinners, and jointly, men and women have to be the homemakers. We have to encourage the women. We have to empower the women. When we talk about empowerment of women, what exactly do we mean? Infusing women with power. There is a shade of difference between in my view, there is a shade of difference between gender equality and women's empowerment. Women's empowerment is more infusing power. Equality means not discriminating. Equity means treating fairly. Encourage the children, educate them equally, sensitize them from the beginning, and I am sure we will be able to achieve complete gender justice. I repeat, all that is required is a change of mindset. Gender does not matter. The only difference is physical, nothing more, nothing less. With this, I hope the judicial colloquium today a grand success. It, I hope it will be a step forward to achieve true equality of women, where there will be more and more women in important positions, positions where they can take decisions in managerial positions, where I hope there will be a society free from crimes against women, free from domestic violence of any kind. Thank you very much.
I feel speechless. It was truly very enlightening hearing your views. And the message that Honorable Ms Justice Banerjee has given, that message is change of the mindset. Change the mindset. She also referred from the Human Rights Declaration in 1948. She also mentioned the Constitution of India, the preamble, especially the social justice, and when it comes to the women, that the no socio-economic political background should be a barrier for the equality and the gender justice. She also mentioned the CEDAW, and I remember that when this Vienna Convention was held, at that time Hillary Clinton, she has written one book at that time when this CEDAW was announced. And in her visit to India, she has referred to two names, her visit to India. One is of 11 Bhatt, and another name she has referred of a 14 years old South Indian girl. When she visited India and when she was in Delhi, a few of the school girls, one of the 14 years old South Indian girl, she met her, and she had given a one cheek to Hillary Clinton. She has written in her book, and I put on record. And it was written in that that cheat, that every woman in this world know one language of silence. And that no caste, no creed, no sex, no religion, no country, being a woman, one language, and that is the language of silence. The message that today Honorable Ms Justice Banerjee has given, that we need to change the mindset, and when we change the mindset, that from the homemaker to the breadwinners, and the entire from the subconscious programming of the upcoming generations. Ma'am, we assure at the Gujarat Law Society that being the one of the most important stakeholders, being the educational institution, and when by 2030, the one of the sustainable development goal is the gender equality, we will definitely work towards changing the mindset at our level through the instrument of the education. With that, we move forward. Would like to introduce the guest of honor, Honorable Ms Justice Nagarathna, who is the 10th judge of the Supreme Court of India. And Honorable Ms Justice Banerjee just now mentioned that it's a proud moment for all of us that she will be the Chief Justice, the highest post at the Supreme Court of India. She will be the Chief Justice of India. Ma'am, it is true honor for GLS that you have accepted our invitation. Honorable Ms Justice Nagarathna is a towering and inspirational personality. 30 years of her experience as an advocate, and she was appointed as the judge of the Supreme Court of India in the year 2021. That is the last year. She was appointed as the judge of the Karnataka High Court in the year 2008, being the 10th judge, women judge of the Supreme Court of India. She has the several landmark and notable judgments to her credit, including the judgment on stressing the need to regulate the electronic media and declaring the temple as a non-commercial establishment, being few of them. Once again, I request Honorable Ms Justice Nagarathna for her address, for her views on the whether gender matters.
And President, Dr Mayuri Pandya, Director, Dr Chandni Kapadia, Executive Director, and other office bearers of the Gujarat Law Society, faculty and staff of the Gujarat Law Society, distinguished invitees, dear students, ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, I thank the Gujarat Law Society Ahmedabad for inviting me to this judicial colloquium, as Dr. Mayuri Pandya said, to celebrate Women's Day, or as they say, International Women's Day. I wish everyone gathered here a very happy International Women's Day. It is not only to celebrate the progress made towards achieving gender equality and women empowerment, but also to reflect on those accomplishments and strive for a greater momentum towards gender equality. The topic of this session is, Does Gender Matter? Let me hark back to our epics and begin with a narrative about one of our resilient heroines of the Mahabharata, namely Draupadi. While it is undebatable that the attempted disrobing or Vastraharana of Draupadi was a clear insult to womanhood. I believe that this oft quoted episode throws a challenge on several aspects. When Draupadi was put at stake and lost at a game of dice, she first asked Yudhishthira, her husband, a very poignant question, and I quote from the noted author Gurcharan Das in his book The Difficulty of Being Good. Draupadi asked Yudhishthira, and I quote, "Who did you lose first, yourself or me?" Unquote. She then goes on to ask him, quote, "What is left of the dharma of kings?" Unquote, as she was dragged into the assembly. As these questions uncomfortably hung over the entire assembly, an attempt was made by Kauravas to disrobe her. And ultimately, we all know that her fervent prayers were answered by Lord Krishna. The scene I just discussed demonstrates that gender has been at the core of how our social world has been organized from the age of the epics. In the context, I answer the question, does gender matter, in the affirmative. Justice Banerjee just mentioned that gender does not matter at all, it is only biological. But of course, that I think is in a very high level of thinking and a utopian concept, I would say, but not in reality. Before proceeding further, I would like to underline the differences between the two terms that are often used interchangeably, namely gender and sex. In the most prosaic terms, sex refers to the biological aspect, while the term gender includes within its ambit the social and cultural dimensions of sex. Therefore, it would not be incorrect to state that sex forms the basis for the broader sociological and cultural conception of gender. It is based on sex that a given society determines gender roles. In this context, we must thank the framers of our Constitution who have rightly acknowledged this semantic differentiation between gender and sex. As mentioned by Her Ladyship Justice Banerjee, that Article 15.1 states that there shall be no discrimination on the ground only of sex. However, in Article 15.3 of the Constitution, it allows special provisions to be made in favor of women and children. The need for special provisions in favor of women is recognized having regard not to the biological sex, but to its socio-cultural dimension, that is, gender. Any provision which authorizes the state to make special allowances in favor of any category of persons is to be enacted, having regard to the societal inequalities and hierarchies. Therefore, while making special provisions under Article 15.3, regard must be had not just to the biological aspect of sex, but the social, cultural, and sociological aspects that are linked to sex. Striving for a gender free society, as I said, is at a very high level of thinking. And in the Indian context, I'm not sure whether it would be really appropriate to think of it at this stage. Some may call substantive equality being achieved, while others say we should achieve formal equality. Formal equality subscribes to the idea of gender neutrality, which means that a single standard would be applied in a straitjacket manner, having no regard to gender, male, female, or third gender. On the other hand, in my view, substantive equality takes into account a host of factors, including the physiological, sociological, and emotional, social, and legal factors, with a view to recognize the varied needs of each gender and take positive and targeted measures to correct the structural inequalities between the three genders. A recognition that the needs of the three genders are different, and therefore a one-size-fits-all solution is not practicable. This is in line with Article 15.3 of our Constitution. Once a specific need of any gender is recognized, laws and policies must be modeled to provide such needs. Therefore, no policy can be formulated in a vacuum, devoid of considerations peculiar to each gender. Thus, if an isolated approach is adopted in framing policy, the same would not serve the purpose for which it is enacted. For instance, a policy to secure education for the girl child on par with boys cannot be made without having considerations such as the need to have appropriate sanitary facilities to ensure hygiene, menstrual hygiene, particularly in schools and colleges. In keeping with the spirit of ensuring substantive equality, after duly recognizing the varied needs of persons belonging to different genders, the Supreme Court of India, in National Legal Services Authority, NALSA versus Union of India, not only ruled that the fundamental rights guaranteed under the Constitution will be equally applicable to persons belonging to male and female gender, but also recognized what is known as the third gender and issued directions to the central and state governments in order to ensure that health, sanitation, and medical facilities which accommodate the requirements of persons of the third gender are made available to them. Following the rulings of the Supreme Court, in order to further crystallize the status of the third gender persons in India, the Parliament has enacted the Transgender Persons Protection of Rights Act 2019. The Act not only allows transgender persons to identify themselves as male, female, or transgender, but also provides for various rights and entitlements of persons of third gender, including prohibition of discrimination against transgender persons, right to employment, education, and healthcare. I would like to speak a few words on the said Act as it is relevant to the topic under consideration. The Act also provides for the establishment of a National Council for Transgender Persons, which has been tasked with advising the central and state governments on formulation of policies applicable to them and monitoring the impact of such policies in achieving equality and full participation of transgender persons. The definition of transgender person is in Section 2K of the Act, while Section 2I of the Act defines person with intersex variations. Chapter 2 of the Act concerns prohibition against discrimination, while Chapter 3 of the Act provides for the rights and procedures relating to the recognition of identity of transgender persons. Section 4 provides for the right of a transgender person to be recognized as such. Thus, the provisions of the Act concerns the self-perceived gender identity of a person of a third gender. A transgender person who seeks to claim benefits under the Act may obtain a certificate of identity as a transgender as provided under Section 5 of the Act, while Section 6 provides for the procedure to obtain such a certificate from the district magistrate. Section 7 is important inasmuch as it recognizes the right of a transgender person to change their gender even after they have been granted a certificate of identity as transgender persons under Section 5 and 6 of the Act. Should a transgender person undergo surgery to change the gender to either male or female, the Act allows such persons to obtain a revised certificate of gender identity. Thus, the Act is based on ideas of gender self determination and gender fluidity. Coming to women, the Parliament and the courts have been striving to secure women's rights by providing a legal framework which duly recognizes the intimate attributes of a woman's body and psyche. To name a few, Medical Termination of Pregnancy Act 1971, Indecent Representation of Women Prohibition Act 1986, Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act 2005, Maternity Benefit Act 1961. These legislations have been a product of a gender affirmative action and not gender blind or gender neutral approach. They have aptly acknowledged and attempted to provide for the specific needs of women. It is important to ensure that such legislations are interpreted purposefully with a view to secure the objects of their enactment. By acknowledging that women are different from men physiologically, psychologically, and emotionally, we are in no way subscribing to the flawed and asymmetrical construct that women are the weaker sex. I do not mean that. Women have been and continue to be powerful figures of strength, courage, intelligence, resilience, and tolerance, and hence the celebration today. Since I personally subscribe to the view that in order to effectively provide for the specific needs of each gender, differentiation is critical and important, I would like to also stress that in the garb of differentiation or classification, there should not be discrimination. In order to ascertain whether a particular policy of differentiation is also discriminatory, the question that has to be asked is whether the method of differentiation will reinforce existing patterns of inequality. In other words, the question to be asked is whether differentiation based on gender would lead to discrimination. If the answer is in the affirmative, then the policy of differentiation would be adverse to the interest of women or persons of third gender. I would also like to emphasize that a policy which was earlier only in the nature of a differentiation could, with the passage of time and changing social dynamics, become discriminatory. This would be particularly so having regard to the roles of women in a changing society, particularly in India. Today, Dr. Pandya has rightly said it is a time for us to celebrate, as the women are in a variety of fields, not just in the legal field, but in the corporate field, academia, science, and in defense, especially defense, which was traditionally considered to be the most masculine of all domains. In fact, very recently, our own Supreme Court of India, with the celebrated decision of Secretary Ministry of Defense versus Babita Punya, directed that women engaged as short service commission officers be granted permanent commission in the Indian Army on par with the male counterparts. While the Supreme Court was against discrimination against women short service commission officers, in a subsequent judgment has exactly recognized what it is to be a woman in the defense. That is, in the case of Lieutenant Colonel Nitisha and others, where the physiological changes that a woman undergoes with the passage of time, which is a natural process of aging, hormonal activity, and pregnancy, a differentiation was permissible in relation to the medical criteria while adopting the evaluation to be done for women to be from promoted from soft service commission officers as permanent commission. These decisions of the Supreme Court reflect and recognize that gender determines the physical and physiological differences between persons. Therefore, in my humble view, a gender blind or a gender neutral approach must not be adopted in implementing any policy. Having acknowledged the personality of modern women being one of strength, independence, and determination, it is equally important, and here I emphasize as a woman, that women strive to keep intact their finer feminine sensibilities of kindness and care. Education and financial independence of women would not make them any more stronger than men in the sense of they becoming adverse to them in later points of time. What I mean is that education and financial independence of women must not have implications adversely on their more domestic aspects, such as marriage and family. In my opinion, women inherently have tremendous potential for compassion, forgiveness, and sensitivity, and the same must be kept always alive, especially while dealing with affairs of the family. We all know that in India, the family is a very important social unit, and one of the reasons for our society being cohesive, unlike the West, is because of strong familial ties that we all possess. Moving on, since I'm addressing many lawyers and judges and law students, I would like to highlight that what is necessary to encourage women in the legal field. It is not only the entry into the legal profession, but what I would say is their retention in the profession that is of utmost importance. To this end, the requirements that may be recognized and provided for could be highlighted in a few ways. These requirements may be as basic as providing adequate sanitation and hygiene facilities in the court premises for women lawyers, women staff, and even women judges, women witnesses, women litigants, and women public in the courthouses and court premises. But simple acts of courtesy in a court, like offering a chair to a woman advocate in a crowded courtroom, or giving easy access to women to enter and exit courts, are things which will greatly assist and empower women to be retained in the legal profession. Entry and retention of greater number of women at the bar would naturally increase the possibility of women elevated to the bench. One of the ways in which women could survive and be retained and continue in the legal profession is also by seniors in the profession, senior advocates, and other senior persons in the courts acknowledging the good work of women advocates, and also by we, the judges, having patience to hear young women advocates who have prepared their cases so well and make valid submissions in the cases that they argue. I may add a bit here by saying that women advocates are not just meant to argue matrimonial cases and cases concerning those enactments which are for women. Women are equally capable of arguing constitutional points at all levels in the hierarchy of courts. Another way in which women advocates could be encouraged is by public sector organizations and corporates empaneling women advocates to represent them in law courts, at least to an extent of 30%, so that their visibility in the courts could be retained and they survive in the legal profession. Similarly, the state and central governments could appoint greater numbers of women as their law officers to represent them in courts. We, being in the legal field, whether as judges, advocates, or in the academia, as women should strive hard to ensure that when we come across any kind of matters where there could be purposeful interpretation, a very purposeful presentation, which would ultimately empower gender, that is, women or the transgender, we should take such opportunities to ensure that the enactments are interpreted purposefully and so that the objects of the acts are ultimately implemented. With this short submission that I make to all women and men who have joined in, I once again thank everyone gathered here a very happy International Women's Day in advance. Let us all strive to create a society that values and respects persons of all genders alike while still recognizing the inherent differences between them. I thank Justice Banerjee for her kind references to me. I also thank Dr. Mayuri Pandya for her kind references to me. I thank everybody for their kind attention. Thank you and namaskar.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for sharing your views. We are indeed honored, your ladyship, that the gender and especially the mention for the third gender and the message that you have given to the young budding lawyers and every woman through your expression, through your speech. We have another guest of honor, Honorable Ms Justice Bela Trivedi, who is the first women judge elevated at the Supreme Court of India from Gujarat state. So very proud for all of us. Ma'am was the 11th women judge of the Supreme Court of India, and she was deputed earlier as the law secretary of the Gujarat state uh, during 2004 and 2006. She then served as a member of Judicial Services. In the year 2013, her ladyship became the judge in High Court of Rajasthan. 3 years later, in 2016, she was transferred back to her parent High Court, that is the State High Court of Gujarat, where she had to deal with the mixed bag of the cases. She was a part of various notable judgments in the Gujarat High Court, including the decision awarding death penalty in the rape case of Anil S. Yadav versus State of Gujarat. Ma'am, we are eagerly awaiting for your views on today's subject.
Namaskar and good afternoon, all of you. My esteemed senior sisters, Justice Indira Banerjee and Justice B.V.Nagarathna, I take this opportunity to welcome them virtually and in Gujarat, and I request them to come physically next time. My other esteemed younger sisters in Gujarat High Court, Justice Sonia Gokani, Justice Sangeeta Vishen, Justice Geeta Gopi, Justice Vaibhavi Nanavati, Justice Mona Bhatt, and Justice Nisha Thakur, who will be chairing the sessions in the next session. My esteemed brother and judges of Gujarat High Court, Dr. Sudhir Nanavati, Senior Advocate and President, GLS University, Dr. Mayuri Pandya, Director, Faculty of Law, GLS University, Dr. Chandni Kapadia, Executive Director, GLS University, Ms. Payal Mehta, and other faculty members of GLS, judicial officers, dear students, invited guests, and friends who have joined virtually. First of all, let me congratulate Dr. Sudhir Nanavati for organizing such a wonderful event virtually. Despite all of us know how busy Dr. Sudhir Nanavati is, but despite his busy schedule as a senior advocate, he has always been a torch bearer in the field of education and has carried forward the torch of education as visualized by the founder of the GLS, who were none other than Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel and Shri G.V. Mavlankar. Dr. Mayuri Pandya and her team also deserve all accolades and compliments for organizing such a wonderful colloquium. This is indeed a momentous event because 3 sitting Supreme Court judges and 6 sitting lady High Court judges are going to be there in your colloquium, and for that I heartily congratulate all of you. Uh, when Mayuri Pandya sent proposed E-Days plan, one of my brother judges jokingly told me, "This is highly objectionable and discriminatory. There is no male judge in this E-Days plan." I said, "It's for you to introspect how women must be feeling when they are discriminated by men." So it was, of course, in lighter tone, but without wasting much time, I'll start with the topic: Does gender matter? But before going to the topic, uh, let me clarify further what my senior sisters have said about the sex and gender. Though the term sex and gender are interchangeably used, they are interconnected, but not they are equivalent. Generally, we assign a newborn's sex as either male or female based on baby's genitals. Once a sex is assigned, we presume the child's gender. Nonetheless, while gender may begin with assignment of the sex, it does not end there. There is a distinction between grammatical gender and natural gender. Natural gender is simply biological sex of a person, animal, or character, whereas grammatical gender is a way of classifying nouns into classes and categories. Grammatical gender does not always match up with the natural gender of the person being described. Nowadays, the vocabulary of gender continues to evolve, and there are many new terms which have now been evolved, like agender, cisgender, FTM, gender fluid, transgender, etc. So, with this little preface, I would answer the simple question: Does gender matter? In affirmative, yes. It matters to every individual, every family, every society, every country, and I would say it matters to every part of this planet Earth. First of all, I say yes because it matters to the nature itself. It matters to the existence itself. The nature has created this duality in the gender, not only in the human being, but also in every living being, in every species, every flora and fauna on the earth. It is said that the whole world is nothing but the cosmic dance of Lord Shiva. One of the forms of Lord Shiva is the form of Ardhanarishwar. When Parvati, consort of Shiva, implored him to impart the knowledge of secret of yoga, Shiva absorbed Parvati in him and then was called Ardhanarishwar, symbolizing Shiva and Shakti, Purush and Prakriti. While Shiva represents potential energy, Shakti represents kinetic energy. Women in our country are considered as symbol of Shakti, the divine conscious force, Prakriti, Maya, which pervades all over the existence. It is that kinetic energy which creates, preserves, and destroys the universe. What Shakti or Prakriti does, Purush cannot, and therefore gender matters. At physical, metaphysical, psychic level, gender matters. Expectations regarding gender are communicated through every aspects of our lives, including family, culture, peers, community, religion, etc. Gender roles and expectations are so entrenched in our culture that it's difficult to imagine the things any other way. The masculine qualities like strength, courage, independence, leadership, assertiveness are more prominent in men, whereas feminine qualities like nurturance, sensitivity, gentleness, warmth, passivity, modesty, empathy, tenderness are more prominent in women. Based on these qualities, every family, every society has gender stereotype expectations.
In Gujarat, there is an idiom which says, Dikri ane gai, dore tya jai. Daughter and cow would go wherever they are led to. So in the traditional society expected every woman to be an ideal wife. There is an old saying, Karyeshu mantrihi, karmeshu dasihi, rupeshu lakshmihi, kshameshu dharitrihi, sneheshu mata, shaineshu ramba, satadharma yuktam, kuladharma patnihi. Means an ideal wife is one who is brilliant like Mantri, works like Dashi, is beautiful like Lakshmi, forgiving like Dharitri, caring like Mother, and romantic like Ramba. Of course, in ancient time also, we had several enlightened women sages like Maitreyi and Gargi, who were spiritual collaborators of our great seers. They had shown to the world that the self knowledge and awareness alone is empowerment. I may quote a very oft quoted and very well known incident. Gargi, an enlightened daughter of sage Vachaknu, was the only woman who was allowed to attend Dharma Sabha of King Janaka. In one of such Dharma Sabhas, when she was only 16 years old, she went without wearing any clothes. All sages and seers were stunned and got angry at her. At that time, she said, "O Gurudev, I thought I had come in the congregation of spiritual scholars. I never knew that it was congregation of cobblers who couldn't see me beyond my chamda or skin." She then defeated the scholars on the subjects of Atma and Paramatma and was called Brahmavadini. Tulsidas, Kalidas, Surdas, the great Indian poets, were inspired by their better halves in their literary work. But these were the few exceptions. Otherwise, the hard, undeniable fact was that there was immeasurable amount of suffering and exploitation of women in the past. Even the laws pertaining to marriage, divorce, property rights, succession, criminality were discriminatory against women. Certain structures of traditional society, though appeared to be the norm and harmless, were reflecting the insidious patriarchal system. Henry John Ibsen, a Norwegian playwright and theatre director, also known as the father of realism, had jotted down in his notes, "A woman cannot be herself in the society of the present day, which is exclusively masculine society, with the laws framed by man and with the judicial system that judges feminine conduct from masculine point of view. There was a deprivation and suppression of women's basic human rights and in deep-rooted patriarchal structure of our society. As such, the International Women's Day grew out of labor movement more than 100 years back when 15,000 women marched through New York demanding shorter working hours, better pay, and right to vote in 1908. A year later, the Socialist Party of America declared the first National Women's Day. It was Clara Zetkin, a communist activist and advocate for women's rights, who suggested for the declaration of International Day. She put her idea to an international conference of working women in Copenhagen in 1910, and 100 women there from 17 countries agreed to it unanimously. It was not formalized until wartime strike in 1917, when Russian women demanded bread and peace. 4 days into the strike, Tsar was forced to abdicate and provisional government granted women the right to vote. The strike began on 8th March, and this became the date for celebration of International Women's Day. Our founders of our constitution, realizing the need to improve the status of women in India, have incorporated in the preamble and many other provisions about the social justice to women. I would not elaborate the same as Justice Banerjee and Justice Nagarathna have already dealt with them. But the constitutional courts also have also played a crucial role in being the frontline protector of the constitutional values and in correcting the deep-rooted inequities cutting across the caste, class, and gender. In some of the judgments, the Supreme Court has recognized the right of daughter to claim partition in co-partnership property, which is a landmark judgment in case of Vinita Sharma. As already dealt with by Justice Nagarathna, Babita Punia also was one of the cases where the Supreme Court put women officers at par with their male counterparts in the defense sector and institution with rigid gender norms. The practice of instant talaq was also held to be against the basic tenets of Quran by the Supreme Court. Devotion cannot be subjected to the gender discrimination is also laid down by Supreme Court. Canvassing the doctrine of substantive equality and stereotyping, the Supreme Court has held in Anilgarh that no law that ends up perpetuating the oppression of women could pass the scrutiny, and that the barriers that prevent women from enjoying full and equal citizenship must be dismantled. When we are talking about gender, as rightly highlighted by Justice Nagarathna about the transgender, the Supreme Court realizing and expressing serious concern about the trauma, agony, and pain which the members of transgender community undergo, gave array of directions to the center and state governments affirming the legal and fundamental rights of transgender. This judgment has been distinguished as a major step towards the gender equality in India, followed by the enactment as pointed out by Justice Nagarathna. So nowadays, it is very heartening to see that the magnificent contribution has been made by women in every field and in every strata of society. They have made a mark, I would say super mark, in the field of politics, education, sports, entertainment, military, navy, space, judiciary, journalism, IT, and also in the field of spirituality. I would not take much time as we are running out of time, but I would conclude by quoting my very favorite quote of Vinobaji, Atma Shaktir Bhanat Atha Shashan Mukti. One would be free from outer domination only when one realizes one's own power and strength. Once that realization comes, gender would not matter. So, though I had started my speech by saying gender does matter, at the end I would say gender does not matter if you realize your own strength and power. Thank you very much for giving me a wonderful opportunity to express my views. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, ma'am, for your views on the subject. And as there is a paucity of time, there won't be the open floor. So I express our because the second session is with the High Court judges in line. So and there is a paucity of time. So we can't go for the open floor. I know many of the students will be disappointed today, but nevertheless, I seek promise from all the honorable ladyships that you will promise to come on our campus whenever it is convenient and we invite. Do accept our invitation in future for that.
Okay, thank you so much. This is a time, as ma'am rightly said, that we do not have much time, and it was self-explanatory. I request Dr. Suja Nair, coordinator of the event, to offer vote of thanks. Over to you, Suja ma'am, Dr. Suja Nair.
Good afternoon to all. This is the end of session 1, and hereby I take the privilege to extend a heartfelt gratitude to the chief guest of the event, Honorable Ms Justice Indira Banerjee, Judge, Supreme Court of India, for the motivational keynote address. Ma'am has rightly said that a nation cannot march further if women are left behind. I would also like to extend my sincere thanks to guest of honor, Honorable Ms Justice B.V. Nagarathna, Judge, Supreme Court of India, to join us today. Ma'am, you have rightly said gender differentiation is important, but it should not lead to discrimination. This will go a long way to motivate the younger generation and all the viewers. I would extend a very deep gratitude to guest of honor, Honorable Ms Justice Bela Trivedi, Judge, Supreme Court of India, for gracing the event. You correctly said, ma'am, that women in our country are considered as Shakti, the power. I once again extend my heartfelt thanks to all for gracing the event. Thank you.